Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Tea Time, the podcast. And in this episode, I finally brought on the expert, a therapist, to, help you all get your lives together. And I mean, this is not just me talking to you, but this is me talking to myself because you know how passionate, well, if you've been rocking with me for a while, you would know. And if not, I'm telling you now I believe in taking action, but I also believe in knowing yourself, knowing when to take a break, knowing when you need to take care of you and fill your cup, and how important mental health is. And especially during, you know, this pandemic. People joke and say, this panoramic and all sorts of things. During these times, like, it's so super important to really take care of ourselves. And I feel like as entrepreneurs, we really don't, it could really get toxic at times, especially online space. We already know without entrepreneurship, social media can really, bring on all sorts of toxic emotions and the narratives online. And I really feel like there is a need for these types of conversations around mental wellness. Notice I'm going to be saying mental wellness because mental health has this type of like taboo attached to it. And can we just shift the perspective and just look at it as mental wellness? The same way we like to take care of ourselves and, look our best, feel our best, exercise, you also have to give that same attention to your mind. Right? We hear so many tips, so much, mindset, this mindset that as it relates to entrepreneurship, but guarding your mental wellness is also very detrimental to having a really good mindset because your business is truly going to be better for it. And instead of me talking about it by myself all the time, ever so often in my content, I was really excited to be able to bring on the expert, a therapist, because I really feel, especially as entrepreneurs, we need that, and specifically creative entrepreneurs. Like, if you're a creative entrepreneur, or even if you're not a creative entrepreneur, do yourself and your business some good and listen to this entire episode or series, because I may just split it up into 2 episodes so that it's more digestible. Um, so yeah, I'm not gonna make this episode any longer. I have Neola Zama, a therapist. I'll link all of her details in the show notes below. If you feel like you wanna book a discovery call with her by the end of this episode, I highly encourage it. And even if it's not with her, just definitely take care of your mental health. So without any further delay, let's dive in to this week's episode. Welcome to Tea Time, the podcast. I am Cassia Marina, fondly known as the Branding Queen, and I am a digital branding strategist and coach, helping businesses get online and thrive doing so. I am passionate about sharing my knowledge through content creation like this podcast, online trainings, and VIP intensive experiences. Think of this podcast as the place to get the latest advice, strategies, tips, news, and inspiration on building your brand online, using the tools available to us, but most importantly, through thought-provoking content to improve your mindset, to maximize on these tools, and to put context to day-to-day developments in the online world of business, with a little bit of tea dishing facts and sass, because I really want you to thrive. Now let's dive into today's episode. Hey Neola. Thank you
Hi,
for
Cassia.
joining me for today's episode. This one I have been really looking forward to. It's really super important to touch on mental health. It's an important aspect of my brand
Of
and,
course.
what my brand stands for and my
Yes.
values and all of these things. Like, I'm an entrepreneur that in my content, part of my messaging is really like also mental health. Like, I talk a lot about like the go, 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 go. You have to take action, you have to do all
Right.
of these things, but I also believe in grace. So it's like a balance of both. And I'm just so, so, so excited to have you here today. So I would allow you to basically introduce yourself and what's your experience as it pertains or relates to entrepreneurs. Like, just give us a background of your career and stuff like that. How you even got into becoming a therapist.
Well, I knew that I wanted to dedicate my life to helping people when I was 12 years old,
Mm,
because someone asked me very directly, someone who I would say was an authority, he said, Neola, what do you want to do with your life? And I said I wanted to help people. And I was always very interested in human behavior. My intuition was always very strong. I actually thought it was normal to go through the world sensing the shifts in mood in people and any environment I was in. I've since learned that's just being an empath, which is both a superpower and probably a thorn in my side sometimes, but we'll get to that a little later. And
mhm,
I thought that my personality, my gifts, in addition to the trauma that I've survived, lent very well to a career in psychology. And so I thought that I could marry my dream, my passion, and purpose with my career. And so the therapist was born. I've been practicing for almost 20 years. I've practiced widely. So I've done lecturing at the bachelor's level for teachers. I've trained military, paramilitary, and other students in suicide intervention. I've worked in EAPs, I've worked in UE, I've done coaching for management level, go up. And in my private practice, the reason I see women only is because, in my experience as a trauma survivor, not many people speak my language and they don't understand my story as a woman who's survived trauma abuse, a woman who's survived lots of sexual harassment in every single job I've ever worked at.
mm,
I'm a woman who has thrived and healed, and I continue to grow from mental illness. And women, we speak each other's language, and there's something about a female story that only another female understands deep inside. So I'm not bashing, women receiving counseling from male therapists. However, I have found my work to lend itself more to wild success with other women. Also, the context of our country, we know what's happening. I don't have to go into it.
right.
Women need safe spaces. We need places where our unique story can be heard and respected and validated. And that's what I'm here to do, create safe space for women with my therapy and my coaching.
In context with like entrepreneurship, like this is part of like why we're having this conversation, where the context is entrepreneurship and specifically women, because as a brand strategist and coach, like my ideal or target market has always tend to be women. Like at first I didn't even realize it, and that was very early in my career when I first went self-employed as a just as a designer. I just thought, oh yeah, I'm just out here making business cards and logos for any business, you know?
Right.
And it wasn't until a friend said, hey, your target is women. You should be on Pinterest because women are Pinterest. And I was like,
Light bulb
and
moment.
yeah, I
Yeah.
was like, I didn't even notice I was mainly serving women because that's just who I resonated with, connected with, I enjoyed working with. but I didn't really look at gender at that point in time. I was like, oh yeah, that's actually right.
That's what
And
it is.
and now I'm like so like unapologetic about it, because it's like I know that's my
Yes,
ideal, but I
yes,
never approached it from the perspective of like, no, I'm not accepting any men. I still like would have the conversation, and if it's a right fit, I'll work with them.
right.
But in the past, yeah, I just found that nope, I shouldn't. So, first, let's address the myth of mental health, right? And this is something that really is a peeve of mine, and why I'm so passionate about mental health is that there's so much emphasis, you know, you would find when it comes to like finding insurance, it's all geared. Why? Why is someone calling me?
Now,
Okay, let me reel it back in.
you
Where did
don't
I?
include these as bloopers, though. I find it so relatable and kind of sweet.
All right. I won't edit it out because I can't remember where I left off. And
We're
yeah.
circling back to
Let's
the
circle back.
foundation for boundaries.
So
Yeah.
you would find that when you start a career, you think about insurance, and the insurance is around, dying, death, um, what are the benefits from a health plan? Nobody talks about mental
Yes.
health in the
No.
workplace, much less entrepreneurship. Like we just don't consider mental health on any level. And the thing is, we understand we can't logistically show up for work if our hand is broken, if we even have as simple as a cold, or we're in the hospital. But what about the mental aspect? We have emotional well-being, and it's like you're supposed to just like suck it up. And to me, that's like very
Yes.
toxic,
It is very testing. And look how
it's
quickly we would get sick leave or leave from a surgeon if we had to have, treatment for broken leg or broken back. But how comfortable do we feel if we're working for someone else to call in and say, well, I'm taking 2 days for my mental health? And we feel uncomfortable because what would they think
I
of me?
laugh
Would I
because, I
punish?
laugh because the response would be, what are you talking about mental health?
Yeah, but then I
Listen, you
just
need to
I'm
get in
working
the
on it.
office.
Yeah, right now. Yeah.
Yeah,
But the taboo is not just local,
of
it's
course, yeah.
worldwide.
Yeah.
So if you study abnormal psychology and it tells you about the history of treating mental illness, people who are mentally ill were thought to be demon possessed or possessed by the spirit of animals or practicing witchcraft. And so they would be treated
Oh, so that's where
very
it comes
badly.
from. It comes from
Yeah,
that
and this is
history.
yes, and we call it the dark ages of psychology. People would be chained to walls and be hosed down with freezing water to get those demons out of them. We'd have really inhumane, frontal lobotomies, making all kinds of mistakes, people ending up crippled. And certainly this has passed down through the ages, and we still have a very superstitious culture. So we've adopted those beliefs wholesale. We don't even talk about feelings with children. It's all about passing SCA exam, getting, all of your passes, and you have to work in a prestigious field. Don't cry or talk about feelings. So
That's a whole
we
other topic that
that's a whole, yeah,
that's a
we don't have
whole
to
other topic.
around
Like
it.
we could do a whole episode around that, because I was just talking to another mom about this whole online school and the way that they've approached this. And you see kids developing anxiety, depression. They've
Exactly,
become very
yes.
withdrawn. So, my next thing I wanted to touch on, which really what started this whole conversation, is mental health and being intentional as it relates to entrepreneurs, especially creative entrepreneurs. Like I could, as a background with graphic design and creating something, photographers, these are the fields in entrepreneurship where we are easily, I think we're vulnerable to be taken advantage of, because people just
Yes.
think it's not that it's okay, but it just seems least valued as opposed to just like the education system. There are certain things that seem more valuable than others. So you don't go to the doctor and take advantage of them and ask them for a discount, or you don't tell them, hey, see me first, and depending on if I like your diagnosis, I'll pay the bill. Like, that's insane. But yet we feel we can do this to creators. Well, I need to see first before I decide if I'm going to pay. Or we've gotten a little more comfortable where we're not designing or creating or coming to your shoot to do any content or create anything. You need a deposit. But then people still have this spec work mindset. Spec work means look and see if we like, and then we decide if we pay, right? So you might
Okay.
have paid the deposit, and then, well, I'm not really totally satisfied. I don't really like what was produced. So I don't feel like I need to pay the balance, which is also wrong because a full job was rendered and you're supposed to
That's
pay,
right.
right?
Yes.
Something was delivered to you. So, if your plumber comes and he fixes your plumbing for you there, and you find that it's still leaking a week later, I'm pretty sure you would have paid him in full. And then when he comes back to rectify the leak, he's going to charge you again for coming back.
Again, for his
So,
time.
and a great analogy I love to use as well is that when it comes to design, especially, you know, people don't want to pay by the hour, right? So oftentimes people go for a project based price. So there's this flat fee, and you agree to the fee for the entire project. But now you have to manage, when does this project end? you
Right.
know so now you
Yeah.
have to put a cap. Do How many revisions do I get? How much this, that, and the other? Because if you were to pay for a time slot of a day, or this project is a week, so you're going to pay for a slot, people tend to feel uncomfortable by that. They just want to pay for this deliverable. But then,
Yeah.
because people love to see more reiterations, we have to put a limit. And then, so easily, a lot of scope creep tends to happen. Well, I need more revisions because I'm not quite satisfied. Okay, well, then more
Right.
revisions or more drafts or more concepts. That means there's more money. And creatives, especially, tend to struggle a lot. We get into the boundaries here with having that difficult conversation. And even when they do remind them, hey, this is the terms of the agreement, this is what the package entails, the client gets very irate. And it's like
Yeah.
really amazing to me why people feel very entitled to want to see more, and they won't dare do that in another profession. Like, you go to KFC, you get your 9 pieces of chicken. You can't say,
No.
well, I didn't really like how the chicken tastes today, so can I get another 9 pieces, or can I get 2 more pieces?
This stream is not as crispy as this one. So yeah.
Right. That's another example I was going to use. So you feel like you want more for whatever reason. You can't walk back up to the cashier and be like, well, this one wasn't so good, well, not so good, but it wasn't to my preference, right? Because this is more preference thing. There's
Yeah.
nothing wrong with the piece of chicken. It's just a preference. You can't go to them and tell
And
them,
yet,
well, I want an extra piece of chicken because
no.
I feel
No.
like I should
And
have
here's
it.
the thing, no. So this happens to therapists as well. And I think so many things here, right? So this brings us back to emphasize the importance of having your internal boundaries strong enough before you try to set up boundaries in relationships. And that's about mindset, because people will always behave badly and they will continue to misunderstand and undervalue what we have to offer because
Mhm.
we give in, you know, very easily to the bad behavior. We allow it. We offer discounts when we shouldn't. We undercharge for our prices. We have such a high tolerance for the nonsense. And if we would focus on growing our tolerance for the discomfort and those difficult conversations, that's how we start teaching people to actually
Mhm.
treat us better, right? So
Right.
just to draw like a very brass tacks analogy, when I used to lecture, all of those students would bounce in class at least 15 minutes late. and very bold-faced. And this is adult people who own kindergartens, not spring chickens.
All right.
And they actually told me, well, everybody else gives us a 15-minute grace period, so you have to as well. And I came to class one day and I worked out. So if we start class 15 minutes late every time, this is how many hours of lecturing I need to cut off, which includes all of the explanations to you guys and all of the walking through exam papers. So we could do that and you can fail the exam or we can start on time.
Mm.
And even if I had one student, I'd start on time. And very quickly, everybody just started coming on time. And I
Ooh.
was much younger and I learned the hard way. Nobody is going to respect the profession or the skill or my offering until I start treating the skill that I offer with the same dignity I think they should treat me with.
Right. You have to
And every time we
position,
give in,
essentially what you're saying is like
exactly,
you have to position the value.
exactly. I love the business terms. Yes, I'm just a therapist.
Sorry, I can't help it.
And we don't position it right when we give in and we
Mm-hmm.
tolerate and we have these long conversations on the phone where we over explain, well, this and that. No. And creatives, we have so much
And I can
empathy and
relate because I just
I
start, I get
love
so excited and I started talking. I was like, wait, all of that is
about
value?
what?
No,
Yeah,
no, it's value.
exactly.
Not and not just that.
That's
You
right.
just realize, wait, that's my product right there. It might seem like it's just talking, but it's my product. Me just telling you, hey, have you tried X? That
But you don't
strategy.
your words are business expertise. And when you just say a sentence,
That's what I'm,
what
yeah,
you've
saying, yeah.
done, that's years and years of training and qualifications and experience behind it. So we're not all talking. So even having a conversation that's too long where we have to convince a client that we're valuable, that's your
Mm-hmm.
time and expertise and it's leaking out of you, which is exhausting. And it's so important to protect our energy as empaths, as businesswomen, as creatives, because we bring that energy to our work. Our work, is a reflection of our deepest self, which is why I think we feel so bad and we
Mm.
take it as a personal rejection. Oh, they didn't like this, so it means something about me. And let me just try to show them how valuable it is again, because maybe this time they will understand.
Oh,
And then
yes.
try, and it never works.
So,
It never works.
so fun fact, like everything she's saying is like describing me. Like I have a hard time holding back my words once I get into something I'm passionate about.
Yes,
Right. And it's like as she said, like it's so like you become so wordy or let me over explain. Like
over
I
explain.
the
Yeah,
over explaining is it's insane. And another fun fact is that she's probably saying these things because I know I think it was episode 45. I shared with you guys I'm an INFJ and what that means and the Myers-Briggs test, which I'd encourage you guys to go read
to
up
do.
on
Yeah,
and the different profiles and what an INFJ is or an INFP because I made a reference to an INFP in that episode. I will remember to link to the test in the show notes so you guys can go and take your own test because I actually asked a friend 2 nights ago. It's something he said just made me go, have you ever taken a Myers-Briggs test? I started to notice some qualities and good qualities.
yeah.
And he was like, no. And when he took it immediately, and it's like, damn, that is scarily accurate. One.
So on point.
And he
Yeah.
said he feels exposed. And I was like, yeah, I have another friend who's an INFP, and he said the same thing when he took it. He felt exposed. So it's so funny how even the responses was similar between the two personality types. And Neola is also an INFJ. So you have two INFJs on the podcast. So I hope some things are
1%
starting to make sense.
manipulation. Yeah,
It's
two
weird.
rare personality types.
And
Yeah,
I find
meeting.
it so strange that they say it's only 1% because I seem to know a lot of INFJs. So is it that we just find
Luckily,
each other?
we just kind of found each other. Maybe we should start, the Society of INFPs Anonymous. If we could swap all our stories because I don't know any other actually besides you.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, I know a few. Someone listened to my episode and he said he's an INFJ and he's like, that's probably why we get along so well. And my
Right.
friend who is an INFP was like, but they say it's only 1%, but it seems to be a lot of you all around.
He's just lucky enough to be in the circle, so it might seem to him as if, yeah.
It's exactly. So anyway, that's just so funny. Um, so back to your point, like it's not just talking, it's our years of experience, and that's actually
Right.
very correct because I see people like guys, I watch you all on social media struggle with issues that I know I have the solution to, but I can't help you unless you allow me to help you. You know, you
Exactly.
go around and around in a circle for 2 3 years saying you need clarity, but I'm here telling you, here I have the solution, come do an intensive with me. Like you have to give me permission because what I have to offer is going to save you all of this time going around in a circle. So yeah. So let's reel it back into what you were saying about having boundaries and over explaining. I wanted to actually highlight that you spoke about internal and external boundaries.
Right.
Now, that's not something that you hear day to day. You just hear you need to have
No.
boundaries, you need to have boundaries, boundaries, and we have all these memes all over social media. Boundaries, boundaries, boundaries. And the first time I heard internal boundaries from you, I was like, internal boundaries? So maybe
What's that?
yeah, like
What
maybe there
is
are other
that?
people listening who are now mind blown. But even without explaining it, it makes sense. Like, oh, there's internal, there's external. I'll allow you now to elaborate on that.
Boundaries, they're very much, they're having a moment. Um, but boundaries have been a backbone of healthy relationships in psychology forever. So the idea, I think, especially with the memes, now I love the memes. I actually don't remember what life was like before memes. Not to knock them because I love them and they give me life. But I think the idea that we have about boundaries is it's all about no, no, no. And one of the persons who signed up for my boundaries coaching class, so it's starting on Sunday, he was so shocked to find out that the class is actually going to discuss as well when should we say yes and open our boundaries. He thought we were just going to be closing boundaries, telling people no. And he said, and I quote, I thought this was going to be a class that would teach me how to cuss out people. And I said, no. There are times when we have to actually open our boundaries. So that's the first thing. Boundaries aren't about saying no, it's all about what would allow me to say yes. And internal boundaries are the ideas that we hold about ourselves, how we view things like my space, my time, my money, my skin. What do I think about sleeping? Do I deserve to rest? Do I have to be productive 24/7? And I like to say boundaries in terms of I have a right. So some of my internal boundaries sound like I have a right to eat lunch at lunchtime. I have a right to state my prices firmly and stick to that.
Ooh,
Um, I have a right to protect my personal
that's a
space.
quotable.
Oh, let's have it. I don't remember what I said. What did I say?
You said I have a right to state my prices firmly, something, something. When I re
And
listen,
stick
I'll
to it.
pull
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then if we even took that further to sound very empowering, I deserve this price. I deserve to
Ooh.
raise my price because for the past 10 months, I've poured everything into my business, absorbed all the extra costs for overhead. And now I deserve this raise, so I'm going to raise my price. and I'm not going to apologize for it. Now, we don't run into the thing carrying the torch, the Olympic torch, you know. We actually really feel like shit at first. Trick
Mhm.
is
We actually
to
have to
learn,
convince ourselves, right? So we
yeah,
consume
because
all of these
imposter syndrome,
memes
right?
to
Yeah,
build us up. I have a right. Like you're first convincing yourself before you go out into the world and you
yeah, yeah,
tell
yeah.
people.
And you know, you'd think you're going to go in there like a tiger roaring, but really it's like a pussycat tiptoeing into the room. And that's okay. You have to learn, we have to learn, I have to learn to understand and accept and tolerate. This is going to be really uncomfortable at first. Those conversations might not feel nice, but we can do great things that feel like shit for us. For example, going to the gym. I don't have to feel good about something that's wonderful to do the wonderful thing. I can feel like shit and do it anyway. And that's what I mean by internal boundaries. It's holding yourself to these high
Accountable.
standards that you don't even drop for your own self because I value myself so much. I'm not even dropping the standard for me.
Right.
So I'm not going to jump in and say, well, I'll give you this for 300 when it's really 450
Oh
because I
my
want to keep
gosh.
that promise to myself.
That
Yeah,
sounds so familiar. Because
I've done
that's,
it so many
yes.
times.
And we find
And
ways
it's
to
like,
justify, like why do we find reasons to justify that as opposed to finding reasons to just stick to the price that you set because you didn't come up with this figure arbitrary,
out of
like
thin air.
out of thin air,
Exactly.
right? So my thing is it's like why don't we remember why how we came up with that price? Now if you came up with your prices out of thin air, then you need to have a conversation with a coach, a strategist,
Yeah,
and fix it and price
it,
accordingly, right?
that's
But
right.
once you know you've went through some pricing strategy, then you need to stick to this strategy because it was set there for a purpose. It serves a clear purpose. There's a why behind it. And I think we need
Exactly.
to remember the why behind how we arrived at these prices because then we would really it would really stick that what's the why for the discount? Why?
We want to be nice. We have some very strange ideas around being nice. And when you dig much deeper into it, the behaviors that make us appear nice, they're really enabling behaviors. They're behaviors that are rooted in fear, insecurity.
Fair.
Well, they're not going
Yeah.
to like me. No, but I'll never get clients again. My business is going to fail. They'll find out, I'm too aggressive. I sound like a bitch. But are you really being nice or are you
Doing a
devaluing
disservice.
on yourself? You
Because
know?
actually, if we were to reevaluate the way we define nice, actually, it's not nice when you are discounting yourself because by extension, you are discounting the other person from really getting the full value. Because let's be honest, when we discount, we don't really enjoy it. We don't enjoy it. We don't
Mm.
feel good. We have
Nobody is having a good
resentment
time.
and
Exactly.
we don't light up. And if you're not lighting yourself up when you land that client, then you are not even really showing up for that client or that
I
customer
agree. Yes.
to your full potential. Like, what is the incentive? Hey, you have come to the end of this podcast episode. This is part one. So if you want to go catch part two, then click on over to go listen to part two.